Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday live stream. So, as the title and thumbnail suggest, it looks like we're in another one of those days. And it's one of those days where it's just poor price action and, of course, a negativity across the board for the market. So, what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a little reality check about how things are comparing from this cycle to the last cycle and things that we really should be aware of. Because I have to tell you, I've never seen the sentiment this bad before. And it makes sense. I mean, look, just yesterday, we talked about how Bitcoin dropped below 100K. And I said, look, if this is your time and you need it, you should be selling. I can't give you financial advice of when to sell. It's up to you. You know your situation better than I do. But I said it's probably going to get worse. And 95 or 94,686, it'll probably get worse than this. It'll probably keep going down. So the question is, do you really want to stick around for this? Because I'm not your dad. And of course, it's up to you to whatever you want to be doing. So let's just call a spade and go through some things. First of all, I know the price action is poor. That makes a lot of sense. We expected this to be a pretty blow-off toppy type of time frame, and it is not. And it is official as far as like for a one-year price action, we're at 8.5% positive for 365 days. But it gets worse because if you back that up and take a look at it year to date, you're actually underwater. So if you weren't buying Bitcoin and altcoins during the bear market, it's pretty tough for you right now. And I get it because you've been here for quite some time. You're like, where are the gains? Where are the gains? They're just not coming. However, I will tell you, it is a very irrational market. I know it doesn't really matter probably to some people. They say, well, who cares if it's irrational or not? I'm not making any money, so why should I be here? And that, of course, is up to you. It might be a good time for you to leave, because I think it's only going to get worse. However, if you stick around, I can tell you, this is not the worst I've ever seen. As a reminder, in the last cycle, in 2021, right before we hit into 2022, everything was great. Same type of thing. November was all-time highs. It was great. And then we hit December, a little bit of a downward trend, and we're like, it should be okay. And then over the next year, we saw some major things happen. And this does not equate to what's happening right now. In the past, in 2021, I don't know if you remember this, but Three Arrows Capital, which was a couple of guys who were a bunch of cowboys, and they were getting over-leveraged plays and just buying up things and just losing like crazy. And that led to collapse of Luna, BlockFi, FTX, Celsius, Voyager, NFTs, which was the rage, went away like they were nothing. Web3 gaming was also a thing that just happened to just not disappear, but take a massive hit because it was kind of on the fringe. And then we saw traditional banks actually go under, stable coins depegged. And during that whole time, the Biden administration and Gary Gensler worked in tandem to try to essentially destroy the crypto markets. And they did a pretty decent job as time went on. So if we take a look at that in the past to what is today, it really doesn't equal out. Again, though, I can tell you that this price action is not what everybody wants to. And also, to make it even worse, if you take a look at where we are from their all-time highs, Ethereum is 36% from its all-time high. All-time high was almost 5,000. XRP, BNB is down. Solana, 52% down. And I think in the top 10, it is the worst producer, Solana. Go figure. Tron down 31%, Doge 70. Oh, I take that back. Doge is the worst offender, 78%. Cardano down 83% and 47%. And we talked about this yesterday. Why are things down so bad? Well, we talked about the Federal Reserve and they're going to cut rates. And yesterday, it was about a 50-50 split. Now it looks like it's a 54%, 45% split. And I think it's only going to increase, meaning they are going to keep the rates at what they are, of 3.75 and 4, and they're not going to cut. Now, things could change on a dime. Sentiment is sentiment, and this is just the CME Group tool. But if we don't get a rate cut on December 10th, the market will fall and keep falling until we get another rate cut. And it's not just over here on the CME Group. The Fed decision in December, they're saying the exact same thing. No changes, about 50-48 split, not too bad. Some people are saying a 50 basis points decrease, but those are gamblers like my friend Bobby. And then also, I don't know if you were aware of this, but yesterday was the second largest outflow of a Bitcoin ETF for across all boards. It was $866 million. And I even wrote this up, and nobody cared about this. I think I got like 20 different responses to this, and no one wants to hear it, but this is the reality. Bitcoin ETFs, second biggest one-day outflow. The first biggest outflow was February 25th, where we were down 1,114 Bitcoin, or 1.14 billion. Then, of course, yesterday was 867 Bitcoin. That was 867 million. However, as a reminder, the ETF still holds 59,000 Bitcoin. So we lost 867 Bitcoin. That is how it is. But here we are holding 59,000. S&P 500 is holding up pretty good for the year, so not too bad. Let's see, year to date. Oh, wow, even better, 14.75. So this is the thing that people look at, like, why didn't I just invest in the S&P 500? And I'm into this stuff, and I've been buying this the whole time. But it's not that easy. So stocks are stocks, S&P 500. And of course, the top stocks, the Metas, the Nvidias, the Teslas, or whatever, those are the ones that are going to carry most of it. But a lot of them are underwater. Take this, for example. Quantum computing stocks just had a massive drawdown, 50%. All four major stocks lost 50% in under 1 month. And this was the future, quantum computing. And again, people get overhyped and they get FOMO and they come in, and that's retail, and then they just sell and they lose out. You are not those people because you realize what you have. But you're going to see here the top four stocks, they're down over 50% in under a month. Imagine that. That beats even our market, crypto. So it all comes down to this. We have these negativity, and I like to give you a balance so you don't come out here with too much hopium. There was a post that made a lot of sense to me. This is James Thorne, and he is the chief marketing strategist at Wellington. He's a doctorate in economics. Wellington Altus is, I think, one of the largest institution for our investments in Canada. And he makes a really good point. He talks about the U.S. government is reopening, and everybody thought that would be great, but it takes time. And the Treasury's management of the TGA, the TGA is essentially like the bank account for the Federal Reserve or the Treasury. That's pretty much what it is. It signals an imminent injection of liquidity in the financial system. Quantitative tightening will soon end. That'll be in December 1st. And in my view, the Federal Reserve will continue to cut rates until the Fed funds rate reaches around 2.75%. Now, if the markets stay up to date, we won't see a rate cut, but anything can happen. But there's rate cuts coming down the pipe next year. Bitcoin adoption continues to accelerate, supported by pending legislation that promotes or promises greater regulatory clarity. Yeah, fiat continues to be pumped. Nothing has changed. Bitcoin digital scarcity remains unparalleled, compelling institutional adoption, driving ongoing innovation. Still, some investors choose to sell Bitcoin precisely as its long-term case strengthens, an enduring example of irrational behavior in markets. It's the same thing with gold. We saw people lining up around the block for gold. And you know what those lines are doing right now? Empty. Matter of fact, people are selling gold because that's what retail does. They buy the top, they get scared and shaken out, and they sell like crazy. And it's the same thing going on, I think, with Bitcoin. Still, some investors like you choose to sell Bitcoin precisely as its long-term case strengthens. Oh, excuse me, that's not you. The bull run ends when liquidity dries up, not when it's beginning. This has always been the case. And that got me thinking, first of all, when he talks about the TGA, this is what he's talking about from the FRED, liabilities and capital deposits. And we can see that the injection of liquidity is the second highest amount since we had this thing called the coronavirus. Not too long ago. I don't know if you heard about it. It was a big thing. And now we are staging quite a comeback for liquidity. So that's one thing. And then as he was talking about as far as quantitative tightening ended, this is from Brett ETH. I always like this chart. So back in August 2019, the Fed did the exact same thing. They talked about we're going to stop quantitative tightening, and we're going to start quantitative easing for about 7 or 8 months. And during that time, they cut rates. And it's the same thing that's happening right now. But you know what happened with the price of Bitcoin? It went down. Here's the rates. And you can see that in 2017, we hit all-time highs as rates were going up. Then around 2018, they flattened out and they started to plummet in 2020. And then we hit another high in 2021. And then we went crazy with the rates. They're flat, now we're cutting again. It's the same thing happening over and over again. But what he was talking about, as far as quantitative tightening, remember that, see that green circle right there? That's this green circle. So this green circle, Federal Reserve's total assets, when they say we're going to stop quantitative tightening, they're going to start putting things onto their balance sheet. And when that happens, this is where we were at. Now, before that, that was in 2018, 2019, they started to, with the tightening, shore up their ledger. And they started to unload. And then when they started to put things on, that, and only that, or one of the terms I should say, is when we started to go higher. And it was the same thing with M2 money supply. Once we started to do from quantitative tightening, stop, add on the balance sheet, quantitative easing, the same green circle is there. So it is a funny thing as we go through this, and I see people just like selling, and this is over, and another 4-year cycle, and whatever else. I have to tell you, I thought the 4-year cycle would hold up. It obviously hasn't. I did a video about this a couple of weeks. No, actually, it was only a week ago or so. I said, this time definitely is different. And we'll see where it goes. Now, does this mean that we're going to be great tomorrow? No. I'm telling you right now, it's going to get worse. That's why I'm asking, what do you want to do? Do you want to sell and get out? You can. I'm not here to judge you. But for me, when I look at it, I'm like, you know what? I've been here this long. I know what I own. I see these ETFs, even though they're unloading, they at some point will load up again. And then we've got these sovereign nations buying. And then we've got the different investments and institutions coming around. Why wouldn't I just stick around and just buy a little bit more? Because me personally, I don't need to sell anything right now. But if you do, you should. So I was looking at this. This is yesterday. And I'm actually going to be increasing the amount of Bitcoin that I buy. I know it sounds crazy, but these are the risk bands. And I told you, as it goes below 0.45, I start to double up with what I'm buying. And this is on Ben's website. You can check it out, links in the description. But the risk levels were, above 0.5 to 0.62, 0.6, I'm buying. But then when it starts to go below in the 0.45s, I double up for what I'm buying every single day. So now I got to keep buying. And I wish I would have done this a lot harder back in 2020 when coronavirus was supposed to wipe out half of the population of the world. And we were never going to come back. Supply chains were done. It was going to be Mad Max, and everything was going to be awful. And everybody was freaking out. My only regret is not buying more. So I found a new exchange. And I like Kraken and everything. But they got spreads and fees. Not a big fan of that. But CashApp, thanks to Jack, who is a big believer in Bitcoin, but mostly big believer in Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer type of transaction, just like the white paper says. With the CashApp now, and this has been around for a while, but you can now dollar cost average Bitcoin with no fees and no spread. Yeah, I said that right. But there's a catch. Because when I did this for the CashApp, I said, wait a second. The fees and the spreads are there. So someone lied to me because I tried this. I just want to do one instance of buying $100 of Bitcoin. There's the sats. There's the exchange rate, which was essentially what it was yesterday or whatever. And total Bitcoin purchase 98. The fees were $2 and total cost was 100. So I'm like, hey, there's fees there. And I think there was a little bit of a spread too. Damn it, liars. But then I figured this out. Oh, wait a second. If you do this and you don't want any fees and any spread issues, you have to change the order type to either buy it daily, buy it bi-weekly, or weekly. If you set it up to where you're buying at a specific interval, it eliminates the fees. And from what I can see, eliminates the spread. And that's insane. So I'm like, well, Kraken, you had your run. It was good times, but I'm going to drop you like a bad habit and just start using CashApp to do my Bitcoin purchases. Because why wouldn't I? There's no fees. And then the next question is, well, do I have to leave it on there? No. You can transfer your Bitcoin to any wallet, So have fun with that. And here's another thing. If you'd like to sign up for CashApp and get $5, scan this QR code, or there's a link in the description. It'll still take you right here. You can download the CashApp and you can start buying Bitcoin if you're not selling everything or half or whatever you're going to do. I'm just saying, it's right there for you. And that's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. Now we'll get into a little Q&A, answer all your questions, and we'll get out of here. What do we got today? Berhoofty says, I just tried a new Italian deli in my town and it was awesome. That's pretty good. I like it. Let's see. Selling, and Last Gamut says, selling now is insane to me, in my opinion. Hodl is the way. I mean, to me it is, and to you guys it is, but there's going to be some people that are going to come in and they're going to have their thought process, which works out really well for them. Like, hey, I should be selling because I have this massive debt, or I need this kidney, or whatever it is. And they're like, I need to sell. And for them, like, you know, people will demonize them on X. They'll say, oh, you're paper hands. I don't, it's whatever is good for you. And I just want to lay it out and say that it's going to get tough. It gets tougher before it gets better. And if you're willing to go through that and you are aware of it, then you're going to come out of this just fine, especially with the things we just talked about as things that are coming up. Now, could things also collapse in World War III? Obviously. But these are the things that I see moving forward. So I think we should be just fine. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, Anthony says, I'm not buying until we're at 60s. That sounds pretty good. I can get behind that. Dude's never been through a bear market. Hey, don't laugh. I shouldn't laugh at people. If this is your first bear market, congratulations. You're in the roller coaster of your life. Oh, it's so much fun. No, I'm just kidding. It's awful. So, you know, you wake up and you check your portfolio, like, damn, down 10% again. And then you take a look at the news, you're like, what the hell is going on? This should be going up. Everybody said it was. No. And then, of course, I wish I could go back in time and talk to myself and just say, hey, look, everything's fine. All you got to do is hold. You know, there's people out there that somewhat can manipulate the price. It does happen. And there's not mass manipulation. I don't like people who, I don't subscribe to the theory that everything is 100% manipulated. I just think it's just sometimes just irrational buyers and sellers just going, I got to get out. Sure. But I can just go back in time and just say, look, for all the people that are, you know, spoofing the market or messing around and making the different price action jump and go sideways and leverage plays, you can avoid all this. All you got to do is just stick around and buy and hold and just wait when it goes up. That's pretty much it. But it's very tough to do because in this day and age, we all want things to happen right now. We want to see a movie. We want it to be streamed. We want to know information. We go to the most recent AI application. We want food. We just go down the street and go grab it, or we dial it up and have it delivered to us. Everything must happen right now, unless it's investing. And then, of course, we have to wait like everybody else. Felix says, anyone thinking 80K or lower is an idiot. Well, I personally believe we could go to 70K. It could happen. I'm not gonna rule it out. And if that happens, I'll be buying like, I don't know, like, let's find out. How much will I be buying? Well, it'll be in the 0.3 level, so I'll be tripling what I usually buy. Yeah, I'll be 3xing every day. It's going to be tough. But, you know, nobody really needs the heart medication. I can just put that on hold. That was a joke. Everybody needs heart medication if you have a cardiac issue. I don't know. All right. 70K, prepare to accumulate. Esther says, last time I'm in alts, next cycle will be all Bitcoin. Oh, you know what? There was one thing I forgot to mention. Glad you stuck around. Did you know? First of all, you know, Jack Dorsey from CashApp, Square, big, huge believer in Bitcoin. This guy right there. And CashApp is his, you know, the big peer-to-peer transaction app that he's been promoting, and it's been around for quite some time. But check this out. This was just released by Square or CashApp. You're able to send funds via Solana, like stable coins. So they're going to be able to use the Solana rails to make payments. So right now in the Cash App, I don't know if it's right now, but right now you can use fiat, like I use dollars. You can pay in Bitcoin. And apparently what's coming soon is stable coins, which you can use the Solana rails. I would not be surprised if they also add in Ethereum layer 2s, like Arbitrum, maybe a Tron, maybe a BNB, who knows? But I found that quite interesting that Jack would do that. But I guess it comes down to this, which is a smart play, which is you don't meet customers where you want them to be. You meet the customers where they're presently at. And if a lot of people are using stable coins, then you just say, okay, we'll Trojan horse you. You guys use stable coins, and that's fine. But as you start to see, and this is Jack's thesis, not particularly mine, Bitcoin's going to be used for payments, and you're going to start using those. We'll see if that works out. Now, that's a pretty good idea. Oh, that's a pretty good deal. Hey, Rob, if you send me 1 Bitcoin, I'll send you 2 back, or 2 ETH. I'll send you back 2 ETH. That sounds like a horrible deal. Actually, the 1 Bitcoin for 2 Bitcoin is also even worse deal because, you know, those are all scams. And then Henry says, do we sell all as a loss? I guess if you need it for like tax incentive purposes, tax loss harvesting, those types of things, and buy them back, sure. End of the year is coming up. And that is another thing, though. You know, towards the end of the year, you might get a Santa Claus rally, but a lot of places, they have to square away their tax season. So if you're looking for like tax loss harvesting around this time, coming in December is when people usually do that. So we'll see. Hype TV says, is it over for this year? I don't know. I don't know, and nobody else really knows. They can give you a pretty good guesstimate, but nobody has a crystal ball. I can still see a Santa Claus rally next month, but I don't think November is going to be it. I heard that Jim Cramer said, this is the top. Jim Cramer is, I don't know how that guy has a TV show. Let's see. Yeah. John says, if you're in a situation where you have to say, sell your car, then sell your Bitcoin maybe. If not, go have breakfast or lunch or dinner, whatever you're at. You need a big short squeeze. Dia says, getting rid of the millions of the worthless altcoins will benefit your Bitcoin. You know, if we take a look at the market cap of, say, like the top 20, I mean, that's really the whole game right there. Bitcoin is roughly 1.9 trillion. We have a market cap of 3.3. And then you have 381 billion. So you're at 2.2. Tether, 2.4, 2.5, 2.7, maybe 2.8, 2.9. Yeah, roughly, you look at the top 30, top 20 are the lion's share of the total market cap of the crypto market. All the rest of this stuff is irrelevant. It is right now, as far as like the price action, totally irrelevant. And people say like, wow, look at that. People will say like, this is why we can't do anything because of these damn meme coins or whatever else. Trust me, there may be a market cap to it, but there's no liquidity. And I still say, just like we have the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies, it's the top 7 that are the lion's share of all the gains for that entire indices. So it's the same thing with these alts. And people say, well, what about altcoin season? I don't think altcoin season is going to exist. I don't think all alts will go up. I think we're smart enough, and unfortunately now, retail, who came in and got shut down and pretty much screwed over by a bunch of VCs and meme coins promising the latest gains, they've all realized like, oh, this is just a big Ponzi scheme. This is doing nothing for me, and they're gone. So all those things should just slide away and die, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like we just took a look at with CashApp and Solana, and I think some of the top 10, top 15, maybe top 20, they'll stick around because they actually do some things. They actually have integration and utility. Will all those 20 stick around? No. As time goes on, you'll probably just get shook down to like the basics one. So we'll see. Smack your camera. Is my picture coming in blurry or something? Oh, wow. It's Rouse Pool quitting something on the bandwidth. I wonder why that is. It's blurred and blurry. That is an internet issue. It's a funny thing because I have everything connected the same way. Can't help you. Let's see. Last Friday, we had a short-lived alt season. That's nice. It's better now. Oh, that's good. YouTube down-reses automatically. You know, I was thinking about stopping the live streams and just doing like daily updates, like 10 minutes, something like that. But it's not as fun. Yeah. Gen Xer says most people are living paycheck to paycheck. They need stimmy checks. Oh, wow. John says, my kid bought a Bitcoin stacking shelves to the supermarket for 2 years. He isn't even looking at this drop. He's playing PlayStation. I can go with that. All right, everybody, any other questions? Dominic says, thoughts on utility projects, mainly World Mobile in minutes. How's the World Mobile SIM working for you? The World Mobile SIM doesn't work in Puerto Rico, but in Texas it works just fine. Like it's good call quality as far as like internet, no problems whatsoever anywhere I go. And you know, usually when I'm in Texas, I'm in El Paso, and it's right by the Mexico border, and I don't have any problems when I'm down the border highway. So works pretty well, relatively competitively priced, I should say. But yeah. You know what? I'm doing great. Sorry I'm late. You're not late. I was watching my kids skate. I think that's what we should all be doing instead of watching our portfolio dwindle down to reduction in prices. That's it for today, everybody. I think we talked enough, and hopefully I wasn't too negative in the beginning, because I still look at this market and I'm like, we've got a lot of room to grow. And you know, I took profits along the way. I'm pretty sure you took profits along the way. And it wasn't much. And should I have sold more? Yeah, probably. But, you know, as time goes on and I'm getting into this, just the money that I put into other things as a cash flow, which I'll use to buy more Bitcoin, maybe the occasional alt if it comes relevant, I think we'll be just fine. That's it. Just stick around. Anyhow, that's it for today, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by. Tomorrow's a busy day. I got a lot of things going on, so I don't know if we'll do the live stream, but definitely Sunday with Jerry V. Hall from Costa Rica. That's it for this one, everybody. Thanks so much. See you on the next one. Adios.